And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to WAFit. Please welcome WAFit Power Panel number 1 to discuss Mission 2030, 100% connected vehicles. I would like to invite for this discussion Mr. Navid Talib, Plant Operations Head at Honda Cars India Limited. Mr. Talib is a mechanical engineer with expertise in automobile design, manufacturing, and quality systems. With over 25 years of automobile industry experience, Mr. Talib has played an active role in the development and mass production of models like Accord, CR-V, Civic, City, and Jazz in Asia. Currently, he is chairman, SIAM Working Group on Connected Vehicles. Please also welcome Mr. Parna Ghosh, Group CIO, Minda Group. With more than 28 years of experience spanning manufacturing, service, distribution, and retail, Mr. Ghosh is six times winner of the coveted CIO 100 award. He is a distinguished speaker in various IT forums on subjects ranging from technology, innovation, digital disruption, and business transformation through IT. Mr. Ghosh has worked with CNH Industrial, Honda Motorcycle and Scooters India, Tata Group, and Pricol. We would also like to invite Mr. Arindam Lahiri, CEO ASDC, a passionate professional with a career spanning 28 years in manufacturing and across all domains of education and training. Mr. Lahiri started his career with Maruti Udyog, received global exposure at Honeywell Inc. USA, and is co-founder at Career Launcher India. His last assignment was with the Education Division of HT Media Limited. Mr. Lahiri is an alumnus of IIM Lucknow. Please also welcome Mr. Abhishek Dabas, COO Yelo. An alumni of IIT Delhi and IIM Calcutta, Abhishek Dabas started out in the clean energy domain as co-founder and CEO of Zolt Energy, bringing affordable solar energy to homes. As one of the pioneers in the residential solar market, he worked on educating policymakers and implementers, convincing early adopters to take the brave risk of something great and creating new product options to fit the market. Please also welcome Mr. Vadiraj Katti, MD, iTriangle. Mr. Vadiraj Katti came with 27 years of experience in domains of finance, HR, sales and marketing, and conceptualizing and designing products and solutions in telematics, automotive, and telecommunications. Mr. Katti is president of Drift Alliance and member of the FICCI Committee for Geospatial Technologies. With a team of highly motivated professionals, Mr. Katti has been instrumental in making iTriangle Infotech the largest Indian manufacturer of vehicle telematics hardware. And of course, please also welcome once more Mr. Anuj Guglani, CEO and moderator for today. Over to you, Anuj.
Great. Thanks a ton. Thanks a ton, Anita, and thanks a ton, Mohini. So, should we shift you to the attendees while the discussion is on, Anita and Mohini? Then we can get you back once the discussion we get into Q&A mode. Right? Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Anuj.
Fine, fine. So we'll just do that quickly. All right. Great. So we are good to begin. So good morning, friends, and good morning, our dear panelists. A big welcome to you for this very, very important program and a very important topic that we're going to discuss today. Mission 2030, 100% connected vehicles. So we have people from all walks of life. We have people who are heading manufacturing plants for automotive companies. We have a person who is from one of the largest telematics companies in the country. We have CIO of a huge organization. We have people from the Skilling Corporation with diverse experience across media and IT. And of course, we have people from renewable energy. So I think it couldn't have been better to have a connected vehicle discussion now. So when we begin this discussion, I would like to first also ask a counter question. Do we really need 100% connected vehicles? Is it really good for the vehicles to be connected? Yes, there is a very important dialogue going on safety, security, productivity, traffic management. The government of India has already made it mandatory for all the commercial vehicles, the state transport vehicles, for education institution vehicles. AIS 140 is the standard. It has the protection of waterproof and dustproof, and it has been made mandatory. In a country like ours, where there are huge safety and security issues, there are so many road fatalities. So, is connected vehicles answer, to this? When it comes to connected vehicles, one is telematics. Your vehicle has a GPS, a GSM based GPS, and you're just doing tracking. How it started off back in 1996 with OnStar. But the other side of connected vehicles is taking it all the way to the ECU. When you have the vehicle, what is there in this latest SUVs also, whether you see the Hyundai Venue or the new Creta or the MG Hector or the Kia Seltos, you can see the fuel efficiency, you can see the vehicle health card, you can start switching off the vehicle, which has the automatic transmission from your remote. Of course, it has all the telematics features. You can see how your vehicle is performing, whether it needs a service or not. ECUs. Now let's come to security. ECU was never supposed to go to the cloud. ECU is an embedded technology which is supposed to just sit coolly, disconnected under the hood or in the passenger cabin. Suddenly it is exposed to the world. So what are the security features? What if the cars get hacked? And yes, we have the top criminal cybercrime expert also to shed light on that. So these are a few topics, and I will just quickly share the screen, just ensuring I haven't missed out on any point. If you remember, gentlemen, this is what we had shared in the mail also. So do we really need 100% connected vehicles? If yes, what are the benefits? How can we make them ubiquitous? Is 2030 a practical deadline? How do we make it happen? Who are the critical stakeholders? What's the role of the government? How to put the government in fast track mode, which I'm sure all of you are expert at. How to fast track institutions, tech, legal, security standards, and going from just meetings to action. We all love meetings, especially at the top level. You just can't help it. There are so many meetings, reviews. But what is the change, the impact at the ground level? When we retire, what do we look back? Do we look back just at meetings, or do we look back at an impact at ground level? So with these thoughts, I would like to stop sharing my screen and would like to, let's start with Mr. Katti, because he is actually implementing the telematics at the ground level. So having said all these things, what are the challenges at the ground level? If we can start with that. Mr. Katti, all yours. Mr. Katti, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
I have unmuted myself. Yes. Am I audible?
Loud and clear, sir.
Yeah. Well. Good afternoon. So I think these are difficult times, unprecedented times. I hope all of you are taking care, your families and your teams, and then I hope good health and safe times for all of you. Well, connected vehicles, I think before COVID, post-COVID, I think the world will now segregate into two eras, post-COVID and before COVID. We have never seen these kind of times, never anticipated that we'll be in such times. But then these are challenging times, but then I see a huge learning curve as well. So coming back to connected vehicles topic, Anuj, and my fellow co-panelists, I think connected vehicles has been one of the most hotly debated topic from quite some time. And then if you ask me whether connected vehicles is necessary, I think we are past that question. Because as the world and India is pushing digitization, India especially pushing digitization aggressively, connected vehicles is one of the most critical components in the entire ecosystem. Well, what does connected vehicles do? As obviously it gives you safety, it gives you increased productivity, it gives you mobility, it gives you an environmental assistance, it gives you safer and cleaner environment. Basically, what it also does is, I think it creates a data-rich environment, that, with the help of a good and a reliable communication system that gives you, that includes your cars, buses, all kinds of vehicles, IoT devices, sensors, and things like that. So these basically, we really are looking at decongested roads, safety, safe driving, and then clean environment. I think possibly connected vehicles, I think, although the implementation currently is sporadic, as you just mentioned, it's going to pick steam because it is being propelled by government mandates. As again, you mentioned about AIS 140. AIS 140 is just the beginning. If I've heard it right, government is looking at implementing much more better mandates, quality mandates, security-based mandates, which will actually help implementation of a very secure connected ecosystem in the country. propelled by government mandates. Automakers are also, very, very aggressively looking at, including a lot of these connected features in their automobiles. And basically, let me also tell you a very important fact. I think a lot of people have been talking about economic recovery after COVID. I think IoT or connected vehicles or telematics, whatever you call that as, is set for a V-shaped recovery. I mean, and that's one of the best news, I think, for every stakeholder in the industry. Basically, because the kind of the solutions that this technology provides, that includes safety, productivity, and clean environment and things like that, healthcare and things like that, it is only going to help us. And we have a huge challenge in terms of developing innovative, stable, reliable solutions that will help us to have a good connected ecosystem. I think that is, we are looking at very good times. Connected vehicles is going to stay. I think from a technical point of view, I think we are looking at an embedded system, because it's going to integrate a lot of services, which includes navigation, infotainment, telematics, intelligent transport system with the help of ADAS and various sensors. I think we are there for example, we are in for exciting times, but then the challenges are also there. As you rightly mentioned, security protocol is one of the most critical components that we need to look at, because the data that a connected vehicle ecosystem generates is extremely sensitive, can be used for a lot of wrong purposes. Unless we have good encrypted security systems, I don't think the customers are going to be enthused about it. The OEMs are not going to be enthused about it. That is where the challenges lie, and that is where the opportunities lie as well. I think we are there for exciting times. Over to you, Anuj.
Fair enough, Mr. Katti. As you rightly mentioned, that security and safety is a huge challenge, and that also can be converted into an opportunity, because that's the need of the hour. And if you see globally, I will not name the country because they're already hit by COVID big time. I was going through their technical and legal standards for connected vehicles. They are nowhere close to being practical or really that helpful to the consumers. There's nothing in it. It was as if made by a primary school student. So somewhere we need to take the lead. India has always been at the forefront of technology. We have all the techies across NASA, Microsoft, Facebook. Indians are everywhere. Google. You have them everywhere, top positions. So we can actually take the lead on connected vehicles and share it with the world as a best practice. And as Mr. Katti said, during these challenging times, this can really be a good V-shaped recovery curve for us. All the automotive ecosystem stakeholders can come together and expedite the recovery. So with that, if we can get into the picture, Parna, Mr. Parna Ghosh, who's the CIO of Minda Group CIO. So getting a techie in the picture now, because we were talking about technology and safety and security. So Parna, what are your thoughts? I'm sure you had discussed last year too. What has been the change in connected vehicles since 2019? What is there to look forward to connected vehicles?
Hi, good morning, all of you. And thanks, Anuj, for hosting such a nice conference at this, lockdown stage. And I really hope that World Auto Forum, grows leaps and bounds in years to come.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your good wishes. It's all our team all the way through, sir. A great team.
I just start with the current situation. This COVID-19 is going to shrink the entire global GDP by more than 10 to 15% as expected, including the developed and the developing countries and the economies. And starting with that, I think when we talk about VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, I think there are a lot of opportunities as well. So every challenge will throw up a new opportunity for all of us. See, for an example, the way IT fraternity is supporting today, the telecom operators, the platform providers. Today we are doing through Zoom, maybe sometimes with Teams or something like that. Look at the opportunity this segment has brought in. I believe it's phenomenal, and most of the companies are connected. They are doing their meetings, they are doing their chats, they are doing their discussions, they are taking strategic decisions, tactical discussions are going on. In fact, just before this, we were having our chairman session for around 700 participants. He was doing a webcast through Teams. So I think that the new normal is now more digital, less physical. We should keep social distancing, and we should maintain the government norms, and all these things are possible because of the revolution which has happened in telecommunication and information technology. I'll just focus on three areas. One is when we talk about connected vehicles, we talk about ACEs. ACEs is autonomous, connected, electric, and shared. These are all combined strategies. So connected has to have autonomous embedded into that. Electric will be the further driver for this, and shared we already experienced in India as well across the world. So I think ACEs is going to definitely take up very, very strongly in next 5 to 7 years down the line. And looking at the kind of social distancing norms and the way the capital will be utilized by individuals as well as corporates, I think ACEs is going to stay for sure, and this is going to disrupt the market. But yes, 2030 it may be too early. We need to look beyond 2030. I will go for a slightly I will say a pessimistic approach, which will talk about not 100% connected. It can be a 50% or 40% connected kind of a scenario where the information will come, the information will be displayed. Insurance providers will be able to connect to the OEMs will be able to connect to you. 100% connected will be a strong dream to think about at this point of time. But yes, it is a way forward, and by 2030 we should be at least around 40 to 50% of connected vehicles in the roads. Second is we discussed around 10 years back about SMAC, which is social mobility analytics and cloud. Now this ACES will be supported by SMAC to actually propagate the technological advantage in the market, and also it will help and it will enable the consumers to get the right experience, because when you are connected socially, when you are connected through mobiles, when you are looking at the analytics, and the data is in the cloud, I think this is going to be the technological I would say the backbone of the ACES strategy overall in the entire globe. And the last part I will focus on is Industry 4.0, because Industry 4.0 will definitely bring in a lot of revolution in the context of the connected vehicles, whether it is IoT, whether it is augmented reality, whether it is any other technologies which are part of the Industry 4.0 platforms. I think these are the areas we should now look into, apart from the exploration of telecom and data. And then 5G is also going to be rolled out soon. If you have seen recently, there is a tie-up going on with Facebook and Jio, and which is definitely going to revolutionize the entire social structure and the social collaboration with the help of 5G technology. And the last part I will focus on is cybersecurity, because now lot of meetings, lot of discussions, lot of strategy discussions will be happening through these social platforms. I believe now cybersecurity has to be really, really very strong in terms of our country and also in terms of the entire globe, because the hackers are always trying to steal data from every nook and corner of the globe. And I think we should not be left vulnerable so that the data and the information which we're sharing, which we're discussing, whether it is IoT, whether it is connected vehicles, whether it is our platforms, I think that protection will be extremely important as far as the strategy is concerned. Over to you, Anuj.
Great, fair enough, Parna. So you're right, we might have to take a bit of a conservative approach when it comes to making the entire country ecosystem connected, especially vehicles. But I feel personally that in a country like ours where 1.5 lakh people are dying on the roads every year, if we can somehow get that V2V communication in place, what started off as a DSRC, that short range communication between vehicles. For example, so everybody has a smartphone these days, and that's only getting higher and higher in penetration. There is a cyclist, he or she has a smartphone in their pocket, or it is on the cycle, and they are maneuvering a blind turn. There is a vehicle coming from the other side. If both the commuters get a notification, hey, there's a vehicle ahead which you cannot see, the vehicle guy gets, hey, there's a cyclist ahead, cyclist gets, hey, there's a car ahead or a truck ahead, just few seconds before that possible alleged collision, it can save lives. Similarly, blind spots, I'm about to overtake a long trailer and I cannot see, even if I want to, that there's an oncoming vehicle coming from the opposite side. So that vehicle which I'm about to overtake on its own would send me a notification that, hey, there's a vehicle coming from the other side, better watch out. So these things, if we can expedite in some way as an industry, as we're working with the governments, I feel it can really lower the road casualties, especially the vulnerable class, that is the pedestrians, the cyclists, and the two-wheelers. So getting Talib San into the picture, friends, Talib San and I go back a long way. It was 20 years back, when I met him on the Rajdhani Express, coming Bombay to Delhi, Mumbai. So Mumbai to Delhi. And he just shared his Honda experiences with me. How it is working with Honda cars, designing, engineering. I got so excited. You won't believe. 3 months down the line, I passed out of my college and I joined Honda cars. So that's the power that, he had over me. So in a way, he shaped my career in life by that, that meeting, in between the vestibule of the Rajdhani Express. So Talib San, you have been working with connected vehicles for a long time. You have been heading plants of Honda cars, not just designing, not just research, but also assembly line, production system, getting into the customers, market feedback. What is your take on 100% connected vehicles by 2030?
Okay, well, good morning to all the panelists, and thank you, Anuj, for that introduction. You always, give that introduction that we met in a train while coming from Bombay to Delhi. Thank you for getting all the people from various fora to discuss on the connected vehicles on this panel. As you always do, you get all the great minds out from the industry and connect them. So before we get into the discussion of whether 100% connected vehicles are required or not, I would just like to bring up some data. And based on that data, then yes, we can take this topic ahead, and we can start discussing on this topic ahead. So this is the data is basically related to the fatalities that are happening. Like before starting the panel, you were telling that 1.5 lakh deaths are happening every year. So what does that, if we back calculate, what does it come down to? It is basically, we are talking about almost about 17 deaths per hour in the country. And if we analyze these deaths more into detail, this is only related to automobile accidents, the vehicle accidents that happen. So if we back calculate this, what it comes down to is about 17 deaths per hour. And these deaths that are happening, these are normally in the age group, that the age bracket, if we take, these deaths are happening between the age bracket, mostly the young population, which is between 25 to 40. So what we are talking about is a huge national loss. And by getting into the connected vehicles to get more safety on the roads, what we are talking about is saving this huge national loss that is happening. So this is one point. The second point is related to the number of vehicles which are coming on the roads due to the urbanization, the rapid urbanization phase that we have entered into. So there is an exponential growth in the number of vehicles which are coming. And if we see, like if I talk about 1970, we were only about 553 million vehicle market. Now what we are talking about is surpassing China in number of vehicles by 2024 and getting into a market of about 1,550 million vehicles by 2030. But having said that, are our roads currently keeping pace with this rapid exponential growth in number of vehicles? So if I look at that, then what comes out to be is that the roads which are growing, the roads building that is happening is at a rate of 4%, whereas the vehicles which are growing annually are at a rate of 11%. So what this amounts to what? This amounts to basically the congestion on the roads. And when there is congestion on the roads, we are talking about environment pollution. we are talking about CO2 emissions. So if we have a connected sphere, what will happen is we'll be able to look at reduction of fatalities, improving at environment, and the safety on roads, safety of commute. So that is what this connected vehicle will bring into fore. And if we talk about whether 100%, so I agree with what Parna said before, that we can't be looking, because that is too optimistic, by 2030 getting into 100% connected vehicles, because we also need to look at, as I said, the infra growth which is happening is only at a rate of 4%. And when we are talking about connectivity, we are talking about all the IT infrastructure, we are talking about IoT, we are talking about the 5G, which we need to get into the fore. So that are the hurdles which are there. But yes, we can overcome all those hurdles if we get all the industries together. So over to Anuj.
Great. I appreciate that, Talib San. In fact, I remember that, in fact, Honda Cars was one of the pioneers in PV category to launch the Honda Connect app connected vehicles. And I used to talk a lot with the sales guys at the dealerships, and they used to say, "Sir, agar free mein de rahe to le lete hain. Otherwise, people have problem in paying even 7,500 rupees for Honda Connect app." So somewhere, that price sensitivity is there as of now.
But yes, of course. We are a very price sensitive market, and even when we get into buying those niche luxury cars, there also that funny question comes. What's the mileage? So that's what it is there. And when we are talking about giving connectivity. And when we started with that Honda Connect thing, we were selling it at a very, very reasonable price. But then people always, as you said, and as you rightly found out from the dealerships, mouth, that what's happening on the ground, it's that people are not willing to pay for the connectivity that we are giving. They just want it for free.
Great. In fact, couple of thoughts can come over here. One is, it's very easy for the government to make everything mandatory. This is mandatory, that is mandatory, this is compliance. So you have no choice, you have to do it. But pushing everything down the throat of the OEM also and the consumer can also be, not the easiest option always. Any which ways, the government is losing billions, B for boy, billions of dollars every year because of these road fatalities and the road accidents. Even if a fraction of that can be given as a subsidy for a connected vehicle device, still the government would be in profit. If somebody can do that kind of an analysis, then I think even giving away a 50% subsidy or a 100% subsidy just might make business case. I don't know. Needs some calculation. So getting Mr. Lahiri in the conversation now. So we know Mr. Lahiri has, he's the CEO of ASDC, the Sectorial Automotive Skill Council of India. And he has worked all across. His first job was with Maruti Suzuki, a very experienced professional, worked in media, IT. So because he has worn so many hats, so Arindam sir, connected vehicles as a business case, as a social agenda, and as a skilling opportunity. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you, Anuj, for convening this, very innovative way of connecting people. And, the moment you said connected vehicle, the thought that keeps coming back to me is, how do we keep people connected? Because that's probably the biggest challenge all the time, and thank you for organizing this.
Thank you. Okay, so Abhishek, you are leading this very innovative EV initiative, this new venture under the Amplus banner that is called Yelo. So something on that, how you are actually harnessing the power of connected vehicles, if you can share.
So Anuj, when we look at electric vehicles, by virtue of it, it's a new category, and the performance benchmarks are not that set in the market. It becomes a very mandatory need for us to have a connected electric vehicle when we are looking at from a fleet operator's perspective. I'm not talking e-rickshaws which are owner operated and they're running it. So for us, there are two important things. One is obviously to understand the operator efficiency, the people who are actually doing the deliveries. And second is also the vehicle performance, how the battery is performing in real time. Now, there are different levels of connectedness to that. Some are derived parameters, some are directly from the vehicle cans, and you can actually, get up-to-date information on vehicle, how it's performing, and you can also marry the two by understanding how the driver behavior is impacting the vehicle performance, and figure out a way to incentivize your own operators. So, other than these two things, the third thing I think when we talk about COVID-19. We are talking about connected people right now, doing a conference / exhibition on Zoom. I can't imagine what would the world look like if we had connected vehicles right now. So if let's say from that perspective, vehicle fleets are known to not go into the red zones and the orange zones and the green zones, could be much more easily manageable by the government or the monitoring agencies. Right now, we are the lucky few who are able to work from home. A lot of people who actually need to put their feet on the street are not able to perform their duties. So that is one interesting aspect. Second, I'll just like to add, when you say, after let's say 2030, 100% connected vehicles, great connectivity, and instant alerts could save lives on the road, be it a pedestrian, be it a cyclist. Also, and when you look at self-censorship, self-monitoring, censorship is slightly a negative word, where we do it, for some other reasons. But if let's say I am getting incentivized for a lesser insurance premium on my behavior, now if my vehicle is connected, it has a bearing on how I work, how I use it. That data is being being used, usable by me, and for the right reasons, it can actually incentivize better on-road behavior on this. Second, and once it's connected, it's also transparent. What we might have seen a lag when over a period of time, vehicle performance data, OEMs are also not forthcoming at times. What kind of performance is happening. Let me say it out loud. Like, I don't know too much about the industry. I'm not, so I can say it. so now with it is connected, it is data, it's open to analysis, be it us, be it an individual. So anything transparent moves the world forward. Now we are seeing 100% connected, 100% electric, all are optimistic targets, but we all know what clear skies look like today. And maybe tailpipe emissions will also, be on everybody's conscience going forward.
Great, fair enough. In fact, Abhishek, this reminds me of one of the innovations that I shared years back with the government. That every engine, every IC engine has a NOx sensor, oxygen sensor at the exhaust manifold, and the feedback of that sensor, I'm sure Talib San will know better than me. He would know the best actually. It gives feedback based on which the ECU changes the air fuel mixture, and also the CATCON also operates. If that data through a chip, embedded chip, can go to the private server and the government server, and it can give us the emission level of any vehicle. So we don't need feet on the street to do a manual ticket, a challan of the polluting vehicle. The government servers or Vahan servers are getting that data real time. So first warning, second warning, third warning, you get a ticket for pollution, for polluting.
And so with toll, and with toll, with all you paying your digital tolls today, you can actually deduct the challans from your accounts directly.
Yeah, in fact, at this I think we were there last year. There were a lot of people from Niti Aayog, and I was in that conversation, the special CP, DCP, traffic. So at Kolkata, if you jump a red light, so we had the DCP traffic of Kolkata, right there. He had shared, if you jump a red light at Kolkata, and within a minute of jumping the red light, if you get an SMS, hey, I've got a ticket, because the ticket comes to you via SMS within a minute of jumping that red light. So they have used this such a basic ancient rudimentary system of SMS to issue the tickets. So when they can do that with something such basic tech, so with connected vehicles, I think not even sky is the limit. And now that Arindam sir is back in the conversation with the new connection, so sir, we would like to listen to your thoughts.
So thank you once again, and I think this is a very, very appropriate topic in today's context, especially, I was hearing Mr. Dabas talking about what could connected vehicles do in the current context itself, and I was also thinking exactly the same, that if there was a connected autonomous vehicle, and Mr. Ghosh talked about ACES some time back. So connected and autonomous, again, there are close linkages to that. And if we had an autonomous connected vehicle, most of us wouldn't even have to go out and get our essential services, or the police force wouldn't be required to handle distribution of rations, for instance, because you could connect it to your smartphone and you can actually do the deliveries. And knowing the Jan Dhan accounts connection and Aadhaar connection and a vehicle reaching to that location and giving the distribution would have been that much easy. But having said that, I think connected vehicles, I don't think is a question whether we want to have it or not. I think it's going to be there because it's a requirement of the way the society is evolving. It was already there, and I think it will pick up speed post this particular pandemic. So I'm just hoping that the connection stays away while we are talking about connected vehicle.
Exactly. So we all know what is basic. We need the connectivity for connected vehicles. We here with the best connections at our homes are not able to do a webinar on connected vehicles the right way, and we are dreaming of 100% connected vehicles. So connectivity is a huge challenge. In fact, our friends at Hyundai and Kia were also sharing that, at times when the connection goes from 4G to 3G to 2G and no G, then they get a lot of flack from the customers. Customers say,
actually, Anuj, I would just like to add in here, when we are talking about connectivity. So this is one of the major issues that we have, that not even while you are traveling from one place to the other, when the service provider also changes. Some service providers we get better service. Some service providers we just don't. We are not able to get connected. So that's where the customers, they face a huge problem despite having the the connected equipment fixed on their vehicles.
So I think we should give this very important feedback to the government not to really gun for the blood of the telcos. They, as the adage goes in Hindi, tel to tilon se nikalta. Nobody's going to pay from their own pocket. We need good connectivity, and we need the telecom companies to make some money at least and not shut shop. So getting Mr. Katti in the conversation, Mr. Katti, you would have seen there was some reservations on 100% connected vehicles by 2030. There is some conservatism that probably it's not possible, or there is a connectivity issue. You are in this business of telematics. What are your thoughts? A, is it possible 2030 as a deadline for 100%? B, what would be the challenges? What should be the action plan to achieve the same?
See, in terms of achieving 100% by 2030, see, it's not a question of whether it's going to be possible or not, because what has to happen has to be driven by several factors. It cannot only be government mandates. It has to be the kind of ecosystem that we create to help that happen by 2030. One of the most important factors that we just talked about is connectivity. I think connectivity has to be reliable because consumers have to feel the experience. If it has to grow laterally, it is not only about push, it also has to be about pull. So the customers have to really experience the benefits of connected vehicles. So that is one of the most important things that we have to create if it has to happen. Whether it is going to happen 40%, 50%, 100%, it's a matter of conjecture. I personally believe most of the commercial vehicles, all the commercial vehicles pushed by mandates, pushed by initiatives by the automakers, and also the need that is felt by the users, I think we'll have almost all the commercial vehicles connected by 2030. Because the kind of benefits what connected vehicle system offers if implemented correctly, will ensure that this is going to happen 100% at least in the commercial space. On the personal car space, personal vehicle space, I think it's still the consumer who has to, like, and I was just listening to Talib San where he was talking about one particular activity, what they did in Honda, and Maruti also did it through Maruti Connect. There is still a resistance from a personal vehicle user, but then from a commercial space, commercial vehicle point of view, it is a necessity, basically, not only because of government regulations, it is because of the safety, it is about the socio-economic factors that is going to, the benefits that we're going to derive out of these technologies, the drivers who are going to be benefited, the users that are going to be benefited, the truckers, the truck owners, everybody. So in terms of action plan, I think what we need to do is we need to look at effective implementation. Because if you see the recent AIS 140 mandate, what has happened is government has made it a mandate, and then most of the automakers or the cab aggregators or the truckers are using this AIS 140 mandate by putting a device just for compliance. What is important is to get RTO clearance. After that, the rest is forgotten. It is quite ironical, but that is what is happening today. And then where does the data go? What are we doing with that data? What is the kind of mining that we are going to do? Data is definitely in a very, very poor stage. But this, I personally believe, government, what we can expect from the government is intent and facilitation. I think this is something any government of the day, being agnostic about governments, I think any government of the day would like to have this connected vehicle ecosystem. But then it is important, it is incumbent upon companies like us who are into this technology to ensure that, it is effectively implemented, it is easily implemented. I think there has to be initiative from the automakers to ensure that, the implementation as per the mandate has been implemented effectively. There will be some initiative. India being such a vast country and the awareness levels being low, there will definitely be problems. But then we need to sail through these problems. We need to swim through these problems with a fair amount of conviction. Because if all of us do not raise our hands and do our part properly, I don't think, forget 2030, even 2050, it will not be implemented. So we need to have a proper action plan.
Fair enough, Mr. Katti. So getting Parna in the conversation, Parna, your company is also in the manufacturing, bit of connected vehicle equipment, and also the Honda Connect app was also done by you, by the Minda arm of your division. So certain learnings and certain, useful tips that you would like to share on connected vehicles apps for consumers and OEMs?
Yeah, sure. Anuj, before I go to that, Minda iConnect experience, just want to share one more, important fact, because we are talking about 2030 and 100% connected vehicles. I was looking at some data points, which is, showing that currently in 2018, this is the 2018 data, so which is talking about the upper middle class is around 61 million, and which is going to be almost 3 times in 2030. The lower middle class, which is around 97 million right now, is going to be 1.5 times around 2030. So that means the lower middle class and the upper middle class, who has the biggest purchasing power in the country, is going to be around 290 million. That is around 29 crores of people, around 30 crores of approximately of people who will be having the purchasing capacity, who can afford this this segment of 100% electric vehicles, or 100% connected vehicles. And also electric is also on the agenda of the government, by the way. Also, one more thing you have to note here is by 2025, I don't remember the exact year, government is trying $5 trillion economy. That means today we are around $2.7 trillion economy, which is going to be impacted this year around. It is going to impact by at least 20% for sure, but still we have opportunities to bounce back, and the situation at China and the trade war going to continue further because of COVID. We have a lot of opportunities in terms of manufacturing and stuff like that. I think this is a bigger opportunity we have in terms of technology and also the consumer market. Coming back to the Minda iConnect story, I think someone pointed out right now about the infrastructure. I think Navid san also mentioned the same thing. I think infrastructure is a major concern in this country, and we had recently made a Minda Care app. Basically, post COVID-19, everybody has to join and they have to report their information on that app itself. There are videos, there are chairman message, there are some tips and do's and don'ts and things are shared there, which is a very nice app we have made, and just same like other OEMs also. Now we were collecting the data from the system, and then we found out 20% of our workforce who are employed with us do not have a smartphone. Now it is an unbelievable figure. Out of 10,000 people who are in the permanent payroll of the group do not have smartphone. And in today's date, who is working in an auto company, and I'm talking about these are blue collars especially, who comes from slightly remote areas. Now this is a real problem of this country. When you have problem with the infrastructure, when you have problem with the end users, when you have problem with awareness, when you have problem with government regulations, when you have problem with I was talking to one of the large telcos, I don't want to mention their name, and he told me that his company is having 35,000 crore unpaid amount to the government, and I believe you can understand who is that. I don't want to mention the name at this forum. And 100,000 crores of debts, external debts. That means the total liability for the company is 135,000 crores. Unbelievable, unbelievable. And do you mean that they will be sustaining in future, whether it is the best in class of the technologies or something like that? So I think there has to be serious government push in terms of reliefs, in terms of the tax reforms, in terms of heavy push in the infrastructure. Today, how China has become a $14 trillion economy just because of infrastructure. Infrastructure is giving them the yield. They have manufacturing capabilities, they have highways, they have super highways, they have internet bandwidth, they have everything. So I think this is what is important for our country to look at. An electric vehicle or connected vehicle, I think these all technologies will definitely come in place. We have the capability of information technology, IT enabled services in our country. These are really good examples of growth. But I think the major problem is infrastructure. Coming back to your point, and I'll just share 2-3 issues. In case of the iConnect, I think the problem which we faced is, one is the cost. Now, cost is not in terms of only the acquisition cost, also about the cost of running the maintenance, because I also own a Toyota car where I have a Toyota Connect, and in the same thing, when the renewal came, they told me 2,000 rupees. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. 2,000 rupees for renewal? It's unbelievable. I bought it at 10,000 rupees, and you're charging me 20% just for AMC. No, sir, this is connectivity, service, this and that, and all these facilities. Now, this is going to be a killer. I mean, we have to look at the cost point. We have to look at the consumer side. Consumers focus on few things. They focus on maintenance of the car. They focus on the fuel. They focus on some other aspects. But you cannot charge a premium on the connected part. This is point number one. Point number two, as I mentioned already, connectivity is a serious challenge. We have 4G. I mean, in my house currently, I have a 300 Mbps Airtel broadband, but I am using a Geo data card. I mean, these are the problems. This is a serious problem. I mean, Mr. Lahiri just changed his connection a few minutes back. So I think the infrastructure will be a serious challenge. The cost will be a serious problem. And India is a very, I think Navid San was mentioning, India is a very cost-sensitive market. So I think this cost-sensitive market has to be really looked into very seriously. And I believe the push from government has to be really extremely high. I just was reading a report from CII yesterday, and it was showing as most of the industries after this COVID-19 will be negative. That means they will not be able to contribute anything in the GDP for this current year, except barring few industries like pharmaceuticals and service, FMCG and retail, and some of them. Otherwise, 90% of the industries are going to be negative GDP, contributing to the GDP. So in this scenario, government push, tax relaxation, further GST transformation, many things are required. I think, and also investments, heavy investments like China, what they did, or America had did 50 years back. I think these things we have to really look into very seriously. Then I think the situation will change drastically.
Great, fair enough, Parna. So, the discussion on privacy is also a very important piece in this. As we've always been seeing, 2 decades back when this connected vehicles piece started, showing up, a lot of insurance companies used to take away all the data from the ECU at the car service centers, and then they would pitch the renewals based on the the vehicle analytics, the way it has been driven, over
Correct.
speeding, under speeding, they would do their probability. Their statisticians would do their probability based on that. There came a law, it was made illegal, and you had to take the customer's consent. We are nowhere close to that in India. So how do we ensure we don't reinvent the wheel? We don't go down the same way. We actually go down the mobile way. Like, we had less landlines, but we skip that and we have more mobile phones. So we can learn something from the West. And if we can have a privacy law on that you just cannot take the data out of the ECU at the service center, or it cannot go to a private server without consent, or not taking a proper consent. Not like, I agree, and suddenly you give it away. Just the way you give it to, your apps on the phone. I agree, and they are watching you, they listen to you all the time. But actually, privacy is made the centerpiece, and they do not abuse or misuse your data. Something on that, if please feel free.
I think you are absolutely right, Anuj. And the data privacy bill, which we are calling at PDP, Privacy Data Bill, is going to be launched hopefully in the monsoon session. Because of this COVID, maybe it will be slightly delayed. It is almost ready, and it has been also sent to all the industry players like us. We have also verified all the aspects. It is made very stringent with respect to the US privacy law, Japan privacy law, Korea privacy law, and the EU recently GDPR privacy law. I think it is aligned with that. Second part is as far as your I agree kind of situation. So what will happen is, now the responsibility is not with the person who has agreed, which is the consumer. It will be also with the intermediary. Now, intermediary is very properly defined in the law. That who is the intermediary? Intermediary can be the telco operator, can be the processor, can be the user of the data. So it has been very well clarified who can use the data and at what kind of situation. For every usage of the data, every kind of usage, you have to take a consent, which is not going to be easy. Second thing, if the person, the individual files any case against that intermediary or the organization, the organization is liable to pay 4% of its global turnover, which will be extremely high in terms of, say, for an example, somebody is having 10,000 crore turnover, he has to pay 400 crores, worth of rupees as a penalty to the government. So the third party is the government. The government is also, putting up a special board for this, who will be regulating. It's a regulating authority. It will just be like TRI, who will be regulating this data privacy issues, and they will be on a continuous basis monitoring this situation. But the challenge will be not with the privacy law or the implementation part. The more issue will be now, the war will not be on physical wars. So like this time it was, people are talking about biological war and all these things. So in future it will be data war. So who will own the data? Who will use the data? Who will take the ownership? Who can do analytics? Who can do some artificial intelligence on the data? Who should be able to do business out of this data? These are the real issues which is still missing in the law. I think we have given some suggestion. There are experts in the Supreme Court. We have the friends who are lawyers in the information technology area. We have given them the suggestions, and they are taking up with the government. I think these are some of the things which has to be answered very properly by the government, because this will be the real challenge where the ownership and the utilization of the data will be lying with. And individuals are also responsible to understand the importance of his or her data. So it can be your health data, it can be your your gender data, it can be your any data, your personal data, any other data, which we are talking about.
With us that we have to be careful of our data not being used,
absolutely,
not given away.
Absolutely.
But a normal person, with just a smartphone, with this I agree thing, as Parna rightly said, a huge onus lies on the authorities, on the companies who are using this data. So Talib San, when you had launched this Honda Connect app, what were your thoughts and checks and measures in place with respect to the data privacy, if you can share?
When we launched this, the iConnect that time, so we didn't have, such restrictions related to the data privacy thing. But our internal codes that we have for data privacy, which we are using for elsewhere in the other countries in the world. So those data privacy norms we deployed. And then we had our own, third-party service provider who was the where we had this data, collected, and then it would be used only based on the consent from the consumer. But then again, as Parna just said, that I agree thing, that was still prevalent in that case. So, but now going forward, once this PTB thing comes in, so everybody will have to be, very, very careful on that, because it's going to be very, very stringent as to who can use that data, how much data can be used. And even Niti Aayog, where they have a group of ITS, they are also talking about a common service layer from where you can have this data passed through that, and only the limited data that can be used for either controlling the traffic or the emergency services. Only that part. Otherwise, the other data is all owned by the consumer.
True, I agree.
Just to add on, Anuj here,
yes, sir.
Aadhaar has also initiated this data masking, and if you are one of the intermediaries, you can only use the masked part of the data, which is sufficient enough to understand the validation part of the individual. So you need to have the complete details of the date of birth or the father's name or the address.
So we're all learning, because the data leakages happen. So we're all learning. But when it comes to this privacy bill, what is most material is that whether the statute, the proposed bill would have explicit provisions on connected vehicles or not, or are they left to interpretation, or are they left to be made administrative laws by the municipal agencies or by the ministries later on. So that is very material. So we're just about entering into Q&A now. So Mr. Lahiri, Mr. Dabas, if you have any last thoughts, please feel free to share. And then we'll enter into Q&A.
No, I think it's been a very enriching input, and especially on the privacy and the data security part is where the connectedness will have a lot of challenge. And all of us had faced this while using Zoom itself, and there were so many questions around it in terms of its own security and using it for school education and so on and so forth. So with the connected vehicles specifically, I think the quantum of data which will be available in the public space or not, and how would the OEMs or traffic management authorities will be able to use that data in whichever way is probably going to be very critical in terms of the speed of adoption of the whole process.
Fantastic. So, Mr. Dabas, any last thoughts from your side before we enter Q&A?
Yeah, just one point. When we talk, that the Indian consumer is very value conscious. He's not willing to pay for an extra app, an extra margin, and all that. Typically, in my experience, what I've seen is he does not understand the value. If he understands the value, he will pay for it. It's always a perspective of what he's getting out of it. So if you make it exciting for him, and and he understands. And yeah, of course, when you talk about one is the initial cost, and then the second is the recurring cost. Recurring cost, he might not be so willing because data is very cheap these days. It's hardly any cost. It's we all know that that data is not a huge cost on the maintenance part of it. So we'll have to see. We have to communicate the value to the end consumer, and I'm pretty sure they will be willing to afford it.
Absolutely, well said, Mr. Dabas. Talking about being value conscious, back in the days when I was with ASA at work, we used to do a lot of training programs for various OEMs. So we were doing programs for Mercedes-Benz also. We were training their sales guys across the country, across India and across a few markets in South. So during one of our dealership visits, I asked the sales guys, just tell me one thing. The Mercedes-Benz customer, he's bought a Mercedes-Benz, so how many of them would be actually asking for mileage of this vehicle? So he started laughing. You know what I thought? I thought I've asked a very stupid question. I should not have asked it. He said, sir, 8 out of 10 customers ask the mileage. So in a country where even the Mercedes-Benz customer asks the mileage, so the Maruti's ad kitna deti hai is not really that far-fetched. And he also said in the same breath, sir, majority customers ask also for the fun of it. Ki pata hona chahiye, so that driver doesn't goof up, So that also is the case. So the Indian customer might come across as very, price conscious or, too much, inquisitive, but they also at times want to just know everything and then take a decision. Nobody should dupe them. So with this, we enter into Q&A. So we have a few questions already. So we'll take first those questions from the people who are proactively put them over here. So there is a question, is there any development, is by Avdesh Kumar, is there any development in India, the WRT pedestrian becoming part of the connected vehicle ecosystem? Can anyone take this question, please, from Avdesh?
Just to answer Avdesh's question, I think one of the most important or critical components of connected vehicle systems is the integration of traffic signals. So effective implementation of traffic signals will ensure safety of pedestrians, and plus a lot of ADAS based sensors, which will also help anticipate pedestrian or anticipate a roadblock or a road hump. So this will go a long way in also actually ensuring the safety of the pedestrian. That's a very important question actually. But then I think technology will help identify these kind of the pedestrian safety issues and will be addressed. And most important thing will be the connected ecosystem, which will integrate traffic signals and other connected ecosystems. And that will also go a long way in helping pedestrians to be safer.
Well, that's fantastic. So I think Mr. Pradeep Nair had raised his hand. So we can allow him to talk. Pradeep, Mr. Nair, you can just quickly speak your question.
Hi, yeah. My question is to Mr. Arindam, Lahiri. And since we are talking about connected cars, I would really like to understand, according to him, what are the key areas where skill development is required so that our workforce is more geared towards providing to the connected car domain, and if the companies have to get into it. So what are the key areas that he suggests where skill development is required? Thank you.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Pradeep, for asking that question. And the key ingredient in the way the automotive technologies are evolving, I think one of the key area that we're looking at in terms of skill development of manpower is the capability to integrate different areas of skills. So whereas they're complete specialists at various various domains, whether it's mechanical, electronics, electrical, and so on. I think the way the car is evolving and integrating various technologies in various domains, there will be a very strong need of people who understand multiple domains and are able to integrate these skills together. And these are the kind of opportunities. So one of the initiatives that we are kind of trying to take is to go to the universities and colleges where we are talking about if their students can have a lot more electives in terms of understanding multiple disciplines, and which are digital blended learning courses through industry experts, where the younger mind is actually conscious about a lot of elements like, a mechanical engineer traditionally was concerned mostly with IC engines, let's say, as the key ingredient. But what about the various softwares that you need to run in terms of managing the analytics of that engine in today's context? How do you ensure that people understand the whole issue of data security? Because any part of the vehicle, whatever sensor they put, whatever data they extract out of it, how do they ensure that the whole system works in a much more secure environment? So these are areas which are very critical, and I think a whole lot of elective options within the standardized courses that the Indian education system offers, or the skill training system offers, I think that will have to be taken in, and this is especially true for connected vehicles.
Great, that's fantastic. So the next question is by Mr. Sarat Sahu. Mr. Sahu, do you wish to read out your question, or should I read it out for you? You can raise your hand if you want to read out your question yourself. So Mr. Sarat Sahu, then Mr. Jatin Gulati, then Mr. Nikhil, then Mr. Chaitanya. If you want, to ask the question yourself, just raise your hand. All right. Okay, Mr. Sarat Sahu is here. Mr. Sahu, please speak your question.
Yeah, I'm talking about the data which will be collected, will be residing with the OEM, or it will be residing with the regulator or the government regulatory.
The data will be anyway the responsibility of the intermediary, as I mentioned earlier. The government cannot store data for so many organizations, so many functionaries. So the data ownership will always be the intermediary who will be processing the data, the processor. Here it is called processor. So processor will be having the data ownership, and he is responsible finally for any kind of data storage, data leakage, data possession, data archival, data deletion, everything, the entire data lifecycle management will be responsibility of the OEM itself.
Great, fantastic. So the next question is by Mr. Jatin Gulati. If you can just raise your hand. Mr. Jatin Gulati, then Mr. Nikhil Chandok and Mr. Chaitanya. You can raise your hands. We will permit you to ask the question. Yeah. Just unmute yourself here.
Good afternoon. Are we using telematics in India to determine the speed limit on roads?
Yeah, I can answer that question to him. Yeah, we are, currently discussing on intelligent speed assist, wherein, the speed limits on the roads can be detected wherever the regulated speed limits are available. So currently, as such, we are using certain maps. Certain map providers currently give warnings about what are the speed limits which are available on the road. So it's just a warning system as of now, wherein we get that on this particular stretch of road, we have so much of a speed limit. However, going forward, as it has happened in some places in London, where by using LiDAR systems or cameras, you can detect what is the speed limit on the road, and then the vehicle speed automatically gets reduced on that particular stretch where the driver cannot control that. It will automatically go to that limit, but we are not at that stage at the moment. But yes, certain navigation systems that we have, the map providers in India, they do provide the facility of speed limits which are regulated on the roads.
Great, fantastic. So Mr. Nikhil, you can ask your question now, and then we will have Mr. Chaitanya, and then we will have Mr. Sahil.
Thank you. Good afternoon, panel. See, two-wheelers account for almost 80% of India's vehicle sales. I'd like to understand, is there any headway on connecting these two-wheelers? Because what we're talking about and what we're reading in the news is more from a connected vehicles and four-wheeler standpoint. So what are your views on connecting two-wheelers? What headway has happened on that front? Thanks.
Yeah, there is a lot of work which is going on connecting the two-wheelers as well, because just by connecting, four-wheelers, the purpose of safety on the road is not going to be met, because we need to take into account the two-wheelers, we need to take into account the pedestrians, we need to, in case of India, more typical, the scenario which is there on the road is that we do have, the animals also going on the road. So in this regard, there are various projects which are going on, which are basically working on the connectivity between all these, where all the elements on the road which are present can be identified, and the safety on the road can be enhanced. So there is a consortium which is already built in Europe. It is basically the Honda, BMW, and there is one more maker who is there that have formed a consortium, Yamaha, I think, where we are having a development which is going on for connecting even the two-wheelers when we talk about the V2V.
Great, fantastic. So, Mr. Chaitanya, you want to ask your question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, my question is for Mr. Ghosh. This is related to the data that we've been sharing, and this is about the PDP bill. I think I just wanted to know whether this bill talks of something which enhances the awareness to the customers, because many a time it happens that customer is not aware of the end usage of the data.
Yeah, I think it is actually, speaking about the awareness and the facts which a customer must know about the data. Generally, what happens is when the data is shared by the consumer himself, knowingly or unknowingly, he does not know what is the actual utilization of the data and how it is getting compromised or something like that. So this bill will also give you a leeway on what you should know and how, what is the consequences it might happen if the data is leaked or shared or outside, something like that. Barring the awareness part, the most important part is the protection. So if you see the name of the bill also, this bill name is data privacy protection. So privacy data protection means it is actually protecting your privacy. So the bill actually gives you a lot of leverage and advantage of filing cases against the leakages happened by the intermediaries or the data processors. So I think that is extremely important. One side awareness is you should use or you should not use. But suppose you don't know that also, you ignore that. Still you can file the case if something happens if some leakage happens of the data and you are unnecessarily getting compromised because of that, you can definitely file a case. The legal process will give you solid evidences and solid ground to file cases in those scenarios. That is most important.
So friends, we have a lot of questions coming in and we really appreciate that, but we are just run out of time. So we will take just one last question from Mr. Sahil, and the other questions please put in the chat and the panelists can answer as per their convenience. Sahil, one last question, very quick. We just have 30 seconds for that.
Yeah, hello. My question to the panel members is, can you give a brief description of the procedure of AIS 140 or any other certification standard that will be coming up for connected vehicles?
It's already there. It's already been launched. So it's a basic standard, and we're going to actually the challenge is to build up on AIS 140. And Mr. Katti, I'm sure, can say a lot more on that.
Mr. Katti, you are on mute actually.
Yes, sir.
Extremely sorry. Yeah. AIS 140, I think, was the first mandate by the government to ensure that these telematics devices at the first place will be there in all the automotive, in all the vehicles, and then eventually ensure a good connected ecosystem. So, beyond AIS 140, I think the government is already talking about one more standard called IS 16833, which integrates it to the BIS standards. And here, I think as Anuj rightly mentioned, we have to build on AIS 140. AIS 140 was the first mandate, a very encouraging mandate to ensure that the industry works in the right direction. But then there are quite a few improvements that need to happen there. And one of the most important things that we talked about is the security protocol that has to be implemented, or that has to be mentioned in the mandate as a compulsory thing to ensure that the safety of the vehicles are maintained and things like that. So by and large, there will be quite a few mandates. There is a mandate for the insurance industry to ensure that the insurance telematics is going to be the next big thing. So there is going to be a mandate for the insurance industry, how the data can be used, how the data can be mined, how privacy can be protected. So there will be quite a few mandates that are going to come our way. And as one important thing that we need to do as an industry is, there has, as like in any other country, there has to be an IoT alliance, which has to integrate all this data and then advise the government on what kind of mandates will actually help the industry and ensure an enhanced user experience. So this is going to come. There's going to be a lot of action there.
Wow, awesome. So looking forward to that IoT Alliance and Mr. Katti and the stakeholders here taking the lead in shaping it up. So friends, this is a wrap on this panel discussion and we hope that you enjoyed it. You can give your feedbacks in the chat, whether you enjoyed or not, and you can thank the panelists who've taken out their precious time to give you this knowledge and answer your questions. Please feel free to thank them. Please feel free to share your feedbacks in chat right now. It's right now. Okay. So, Anita, all yours.
Thanks, Anuj. So before I go on to introduce our first keynote speaker, I would like to talk about what is available today. So we have you will be able to download your certificates for the WAF certified connected vehicles professional certificate at the end of the day. And within a week, our offices will send you your certificate. Also, as you all know, there is an ongoing 15% discount over all prevailing discounts for the whole year for any WAF summit if you have attended the full day today. And of course, last but not the least, I'd like to also talk about putting in chat your ideas on innovations about connected vehicles and how we can improve them, make them better, make them technologically better, maybe safer, and so on.
So,
yes.
Thank you so very much, honorable panelists. We are just now shifting you. So we'll just thank you so much. You can take your space in the attendees, and we will just call on Seti Saab to the stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dil se. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.